Who is in charge of your business? Faith or fear? How about your money? Who's in charge of your money? Faith or fear? Who's the decision maker for your investments, your bank accounts, the things that you decide to purchase? Faith or fear? How about this? Who's in charge of your body and how you take care of it or not, how you exercise or not, how you nourish it or not? Faith or fear? Who's in charge? Who's in charge? Faith or fear? Let's get to it. I'm Sensei Victoria Whitfield from strategicmeditation.com, where I help impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders like you to get and stay grounded and clear in mind, body, and business. I'm on a mission to help conscious entrepreneurs and leaders like you to increase your energy so that you can increase your income and positive impact in the world. If that speaks to you, like, share, subscribe if you haven't yet, right? Show me some love and let the algorithm know that this is some good stuff. With that, this is the second in our 4-episode chapter study of chapter 15 of Think and Grow Rich, and we are talking about staying on track. This is part of a over a year long book study of Think and Grow Rich between you and I. And we finally arrived at the final chapter of Think and Grow Rich. We took a circuitous route to get here. And we're using Think and Grow Rich to help us stay on track by specifically looking one chapter at a time of different problems that we face that knock us off track. And this time in particular, this series in particular, this chapter in particular, we're talking about the problem of mind control and entrainment, where the information, the media that we consume is messing with, in fact, our neurology, right? We're looking at neuroscience this month in particular to show like how the stimuli that we get from all of the media and as well as the interactions around us can shape our thoughts. And that knocks us off track because our thoughts are things, right? As a man thinketh, so is he, as the scripture goes. Yes, yes. So the more that we can get our minds right, the more we can get our lives right. Does that make sense? Comment below if this is speaking to you. And let's get to it. Faith or fear? Faith or fear? Who is the decision maker? And as always, I was journeying with my spirit guides around the topic of the week, and it reminded me of how I was at a live event recently. It was the last Funnel Hacking Live. Shout out to you if you were there too. Comment below if you're like, I'm a funnel hacker. It was amazing to be there. And of course, I've been to multiple Funnel Hacking Lives, so I know Russell always does an upsell, and I'm like, oh, no, yes, no. Right? Shout out to you if you're also someone who's a high ticket buyer. Love it. And here comes the upsell. I'm sitting in the audience, all the lights and all of the transformation and all of the great speakers and all of the value and all of the stack. Boom, 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 boom. All the things that you get is piled up and it feels so good. Right? And there goes, this is how much it's going to cost. And this is how much you got to invest today in order to get it. I'm like, no, I wanted to save money. No. And so I was frustrated. Comment below, frustrated, if you know what I'm talking about here, where you're sitting inside of the upsell and you're like, it's giving me everything I need, everything I want. No, don't make me pay. And you're frustrated. And I literally, like, I just jumped out of another amazing program. It's like, I'm going to save money this year. Shout out to you if you're also a coachaholic like yours truly. And In that moment, I grounded myself and I went inside my body. I was so stimulated. Like there's lasers and lights and giant screens everywhere. There's loud music and bright colors and amazing ideas and topics and people. And Russell looks great. I don't know if he's on like carnivore or something. He's shredded. I was like, oh my God. Like everything was so, so very stimulating. My limbic system was glittering and shimmering. And I believe in sobriety. I believe in sobriety. And so I grounded myself. I grounded in my seat. And I heard a still small voice in me and say, you're buying it. And it was clear, quiet, clean, sober, steady, no emotion. It had no emotion. So there was the first version of me where I'm limbic and I'm like, oh my God, and Russell's speaking faster and faster. I don't know, I gotta get it before it's gone and cha-cha-cha-cha. That is the emotional, high vibrational expression of fear, believe it or not. Whereas in the story, after I grounded, went within and waited, and I heard a still small voice with no emotion say, you're buying it. As if it was just like done. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Say the voice, right? Still small voice. Comment that in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about, because that right there is the embodiment of faith. Sometimes you gotta have a leap of faith, right? The book U Squared, right? And the formula for quantum leaps, that book by Price Pritchett. He says in order for you to make a quantum leap, you have to do things differently, right? Step out of your comfort zone. Now, just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're gonna be doing things differently. However, what I want us to drop a pin in and consider and meditate about today, kyo dakeba, just for today, right? What I want us to consider is, what's my motivation for this action? Faith or fear? Where am I coming from? Faith or fear? Who is in charge of my business and my money? When I'm sitting with the accountant and the bookkeeper, even if it's just me, where am I coming from? What is my feeling? Faith or fear? And I would submit to you that the sign that you're coming from fear is you have a lot of feelings about it. And when I say what matters most is how you feel, by the way, I don't mean just be an emotional mess and that follow wherever that takes you. What I'm actually saying is, control your feelings because they dictate your results. How you feel. What matters most is how you feel. How being the method in which you consciously do feeling. What matters most is the method in which you consciously do feeling. That's what matters most, because when you get your feelings in control, you control your life. Yes, yes. So I would submit to you that if fear is making the decision, you're coming from your feelings, right? You're coming from your anger, you're coming from your anguish, you're coming from your excitement, right? Get you foaming at the mouth like Russell does. Whereas faith, there's no emotion, there's just clarity. It's like, boom, done. And if you know what I'm talking about, comment faith in the comments below. You know what I mean. Yes, yes, right? So with that, let's get into the literature for today. Let's go to Think and Grow Rich. right? Looking at faith or fear. Who is running the business? Who is driving your investment decisions, investment of time, money, energy, relationships, and your physical environment? What is driving your investment of resources? Faith or fear? No emotion, being clarity, or all emotion and freak out? Let's go. One thing over which you have absolute control. This is from the 15th chapter in my copy of Think and Grow Rich. The six ghosts of fear, that chapter. The one thing over which you have absolute control. You have absolute control over but one thing, and that is your thoughts. That's it. This is the most significant and inspiring of all facts known to man. It reflects man's divine nature. This divine prerogative is the sole means by which you may control your own destiny. If you fail to control your own mind, you may be sure you will control nothing else. If you must be careless with your possessions, let it be in connection with material things. Your mind is your spiritual estate, right? Like a building. Protect and use it with the care to which divine royalty is entitled. You were given a willpower for this purpose. Unfortunately, there's no legal protection against those who, either by design or ignorance, poison the minds of others by negative suggestion. Oh, wouldn't it be bad if? Oh, can't you see this happening? Isn't that awful? Ugh, get off of me, get off of me, get off of me. Unpause. This form of destruction should be punishable by heavy legal penalties because it may and often does destroy one's chances of acquiring material things which are protected by law. Makes sense. Men with negative minds tried to convince Thomas A. Edison that he could not build a machine that would record and reproduce the human voice because, they said, no one else had ever produced such a machine. Edison didn't believe them. He knew that the mind could produce anything the mind could conceive and believe, and that the knowledge was the thing that lifted the great, and that knowledge was the thing that lifted the great Edison above the common herd. Well, well, well. Men with negative minds told F.W. Woolworth he would go broke trying to run a store on 5 and 10 cent sales. He did not believe them. He knew that he could do anything within reason if he backed his plans with faith. Exercising his right to keep other men's negative suggestions out of his mind, he piled up a fortune of more than $100 million. Doubting Thomases scoffed scornfully when Henry Ford tried out his first crudely built automobile on the streets of Detroit. Some said the thing would never become practical. Others said no one would pay money for such a contraption. I could see the mustache as it says. Ford said, I'll belt the earth with dependable motor cars. And he did. For the benefit of those seeking vast riches, let it be remembered that practically the sole difference between Henry Ford and the majority of workers is this. Ford had a mind and controlled it. The others have minds that they do not try to control. Mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There is no halfway compromise. The most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with a definite purpose backed by a definite plan. Study the record of any man who achieves noteworthy success, and you will observe that he has control over his own mind. Moreover, that he exercises that control and directs it toward the attainment of definite objectives. Without this control, success is not possible. Relating this back, tying this back to faith or fear. Who is running your business? Faith or fear? Because there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be doubting Thomases. There's going to be people who have, at that time, valid arguments to drag you down and to stop you in your tracks. That when think of me in the opening story that I told, buying the jumping into the new program. I have a valid argument. I want to save money. How would I know that off of one test presentation, thanks to my awesome tribe, and I love you, that I would pay for half the program in under 90 minutes? That's $5,000, by the way, $5,000 in under 90 minutes off of one try. And I'm supposed to be doing them weekly when I'm in this program, right? I don't know when or how I'll be doing them, but the master class. But off of one try, I would pay for half of it. If I told myself, oh, this is just another thing to spend money, I would be forgetting what Faith knew at the time when I was making the investment, that this is something that will connect me to my soulmate clients who would be honored and overjoyed to make investments in themselves with me because they trust me. I would have no idea that I would have such a supportive community around me, because I'm doing these master classes not to make money. I actually just want to learn how to do the practice of master classes, right? But I would have no idea that my community would reunite me and connect me with my soulmate clients who were out there waiting in the wings and didn't even know that I was available to help, right? And now I'm creating a community of collaborative, enthusiastic, energy conscious, high vibrating entrepreneurs who have research and development in mind. So they love being part of these master classes because they love tinkering with me. And they're like, oh, by the way, Victoria, you should connect with so-and-so because what you're talking about is good for them. That it's an open door policy. I'd have no idea how many people I'd be reuniting with already, right? And this is brand new in my life. Like, this happened within the last 3 weeks. Faith knew that. Fear didn't. Fear was like, oh, the taxes, oh, the bills, oh, my credit card, oh, as if it's all static and can't change. But Faith knew that things can change. Fear or faith? Who is running your business? Who is running your money? Who is leading in your relationships, in your body? Let's check in with science then about faith or fear. Who's running the show? Today's scientific article is actually an interview transcript from Research World titled Neuromechanisms Behind Consumer Decision Making. And this is an amazing article segment about the parts of the brain that are responsible for decision making. So we looked at faith versus fear in an emotional context. Now let's go to neuroscience to see, okay, who is really running the business? Who's really running my money from a brain anatomy perspective? Let's get to it. So this is from July 2024, and it's by Crispin Beal. And he writes, this edition features Marco Baldocci, the Neuromarketing Research Director of the Italian National Association of Applied Neuroscience. He also teaches consumer behavior and neuromarketing at the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Marco and I, Crispin speaking, had an in-depth conversation about the neural mechanisms behind consumer money decision-making. In my opinion, behavioral science is fundamental to research and insight, so delving in depth into these areas that I use day to day with teams at Behaviorally with an expert like Marco was truly fascinating. So he asks, Marco, what are the key neural processes involved in consumer choices? Marco says, to explain the neural processes involved in consumer money choices, we must acknowledge that our brain is a complex blend of irrational and rational elements. Research has shown that 95% of our decision-making processes are unconscious. 95% of our decisions are unconscious, initiated by sensations. Everybody say sensations. Type it in the comments, sensations. And driven by emotions. It is only after this emotional response that we rationalize our decisions. This doesn't mean that an emotion alone is enough to convince someone to make a purchase, but it is certain that without an emotional trigger, the consumer process cannot begin. What matters most? Oh, you better type it in. I say it every episode. What matters most is how you feel. What matters most to your buyer is how they feel. I think of Myron Golden, one of my awesome mentors, and he says, why do people buy? Because they feel like it. Why do people do anything? It's because they feel like it. If you can get people to feel like buying, they will buy. And that comes first, according to science, because watch this. Consumer decision making involves several key neural mechanisms, and that's 9 in particular. Number 1, reward processing. Brain regions like the ventral striatum process rewards, influencing decisions by seeking positive outcomes. Number 2, emotional regulation. The amygdala and prefrontal cortex manage emotions that impact preferences and choices. Number 3, memory and learning. The hippocampus helps recall past experiences affecting current decisions. Number 4, social influence. The medial prefrontal cortex considers social factors like peer opinions and brand image. Number 5, cognitive control. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex aids in attention, planning, and inhibiting impulsive choices. Number 6, value assessment. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex integrates emotional and cognitive evaluations to guide decisions. Number 7, decision conflict. The anterior cingulate cortex resolves conflicts between competing choices. Number 8, visual processing. Visual areas process sensory information about products, influencing preferences. And number 9, dopamine system. Dopamine reinforces decisions and shapes future preferences through reward processing and motivation. These mechanisms work together to influence how consumers evaluate options and make choices. So Crispin asks him, how can understanding all these neural processes improve marketing strategies? Marco answers, understanding these processes help marketers improve their strategies by leveraging insights into human behavior. While we often talk about AI today, it's crucial to remember that the final decision to buy or not is made by a human being, one who is inherently irrational and emotional. When we're in the process of making a decision, we experience what I call a cognitive cruise, a phase where our irrational and rational systems interact and sometimes conflict to guide us to a final choice. The extent to which we rely on one system over the other depends on various factors, including the significance of the decision at hand. Recognizing what occurs in the minds and bodies of consumers during this cognitive cruise is essential for optimizing marketing strategies. By understanding the neural mechanisms at play, marketers can create more effective campaigns that resonate with both the emotional and rational aspects of consumer decision making. This insight enables marketers to design strategies that not only capture attention, but also drive engagement and ultimately conversions. Crispin asks, can you provide an example of successful marketing campaigns informed by neuroscience? And Marco says, there are many cases where neuroscience has helped brands. In our case, I can narrate 2 examples. An Italian product company, I'm going to show you the one example. An Italian product company selling in the American market struggled to penetrate the market. After analyzing clusters of potential customers, we found that the most emotionally and cognitively relevant factor in the brand's history was not made in Italy, but the fact that every year the founder, an American, would go to Italy, talk with small suppliers, look them in the eyes, shake their hands, and import the goods to the US. The handshake gesture turned out to be the most emotional in the data. The company shifted its strategy to focus on the concept of the handshake. And after 1 year, the results were astounding. A 464% increase in sales, without mentioning made in Italy. Tying this back to faith or fear. Who's running the business? Faith or fear? My spirit guides are saying this article illustrates we're really talking about going with the flow versus obstructing the flow. And it's going with the flow of nature, of the body, of the mind, understanding what really informs your decisions as well as your buyer's decisions, right? So when we look at how many things can influence us and how many aspects of the brain are involved in decision making, it's so powerful to consider that, okay, fear causes all 9 of those parts of the brain to be overloaded and short circuit, kicked up. And that's why fear produces negative results and bad decisions. Whereas when we're coming from faith, it's like a smooth cruise. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Immediate clarity. No emotional debris messing with the decision process. It's just smooth sailing. Be kind to yourself. Are you making this harder than it has to be? Are you making your decisions harder than they have to be or more complicated than they actually are? What I've noticed in quite a few of my private sessions with my clients, especially when it's time for them to invest in something. I'm not just talking about investing with me. Of course, I hold space for people investing with me, but they also come and ask me like, Victoria, what do you think about this program? Or let me tell you what this is and tell me what you think, what do your guides say, etc. All I'm doing on my end, I'm not rubbing a crystal ball and being like, om boom shakalaka, my shaman said, om boom shakalaka, don't buy it. I'm not boom shakalakaing with a crystal ball or anything, even though I have several crystal balls. I don't need to rub them to get the information. What I'm doing every time, not even 9 times out of 10, every time with my clients, is just simplifying their thought process. We also clear your body, because if you're like, your shoulders crunched up and your foot hurts and you gotta pee, you're going to freak yourself out or rush the big decision because, well, why don't you just go pee first and then come talk to me? Why don't you get the massage first and then we do the VIP day? For those of you who come to the VIP day, go ahead and comment below. You know, it's hug, good morning, go get a massage, don't talk to me. Because you're not in your right mind. You can't hear the still, small voice of faith if you're all activated, right, in your body and in your emotions, right? So be kind to yourself. We want it to be smooth sailing. That's what decisions with faith feel like. And the returns come just as smooth. With that, the tarot card of the week is 10 of Fire. 10 of Fire, right side up means you already know. It's an affirmation. Fire is action. 10 is a lot, the most. You got a lot going on, right? You got a lot going on. Check this guy out. He is in mid-flight, trying to fly towards the left while turning to the right, carrying a pot of gold that he also stuck some wands into. It's a hot mess. If you could see it, you see some of the gold is actually falling out of the pot onto his head. Are you juggling a lot? Do you have a lot on your plate? This is burning the candle at both ends, going crazy. You're doing too much. Why? Because your actions are driven by fear instead of by faith. I'm going to read. You're working too hard and have put in too many hours. There's a need to balance the professional and personal sides in your life. Does this at all sound familiar? You're trying to do too much. A good first step is to be willing to accept assistance from others. There's hope for a successful resolution to your situation or project. However, it's best if you cut unnecessary or burdensome activities from your schedule. Slow your pace to a more comfortable level. Additional meanings of this card. All work and no play. Darkness before the dawn. Stress-related health problems. Obsessive behavior. So this tarot card is warning you to be on the lookout for running around with your hair on fire, or running around like the house is on fire, or running around lighting yourself and everyone else on fire. That is an example of fear running the business and running your life and running your money. If you're running around feeling like your hair's on fire, you're preparing for Armageddon, or you're preparing for the end, or for failure, or for the worst. What about preparing for the best? For the come up? What if you're preparing for the unicorn ascension? Like, what about that? Why not prepare for success? Why does everything have to be, I'm running around with my hair on fire, it's the end of the world, like the cards, the spirit guides are trying to say, hashtag stop it. Go ahead and type that in the comments below. Stop it. Simplify, streamline. Stop running the business and all your decisions off of fear, which is off of emotion, as we've covered in the literature today. Be kind to yourself. When you simplify, you'll be able to hear faith, and that's where the quantum leap is. That's where your big breakthrough is. Instead of just breaking down, it's time for you to have a breakthrough. But you're going to have to simplify. And you know that. This card's right side up. You're like, yeah, Victor, I already know this. Well, yeah, if you already know, then you already need to get going. How about that? Big love. I'm teasing. Right? With that, the action step of the day, as always, is a strategic meditation, because we could talk, but now we need to feel and embody so that we can simplify, right? And shout out to all my school members of the Be Visionary movement. Get your meditation tracker. It's pinned at the top of our general discussion tab. And we have today's meditation. You're going to type in the search bar, type in Sacred Forest of Abundance. Type that in. It's a nice short one, 8 minutes. Sacred Forest of Abundance. If you're scrolling through the vault of visualizations, you're going to go to the grounding meditation section of the vault and find Sacred Forest of Abundance. It's 8 minutes per day. And so what this is going to do is going to help you ground into faith and bring in nature energy to help you do that. And it's nice and short so that you can go simplify, right? We had a juicy, long 20-something minute last episode. Now it's just 8 because you got to ground and then go simplify. Ground and then go simplify. But again, what matters most is how you feel. If you don't embody it, you won't be able to shift your state. And without that shifted state, you won't have optimal energy for taking massive action. You're going to resist it. Now, we've come to the end of this video, and perhaps you may be thinking, wow, Victoria, that was a lot. That was great. My mind is blown. Faith or fear? I'm clear on what I want, but I need help getting into that next step for myself. I can't do it by myself. Comment the word chakra below, because that means you need to hop on the next Sales Chakra Masterclass. Unblock your sales chakra. If you want to know what's the right next step from here, comment chakra in the comments below, and we will get that sign up information over to you. Otherwise, you can send me an email back, team@victoriawhitfield.com. If you wanted an email format, happy to send it that way. So I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. We'll see you in the next one. Remember, you do not have to lose your glow as you grow in life and business. When more good people make good money, more good happens in the world. And you are a good person, and I want to see more of your positive impact happening. You deserve it. Big love. See you in the next one. Bye for now.